I am swinging from a 7-story window, throwing parties in a 10 by 7 cell. It's astounding the lengths I'll go to convince the whole damn world I don't need anybody's help. Yeah, I am waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. I'll try to use your body as a life raft, cause if there's room enough for one, there must be room enough for two. I'll sail the good ship you into the sunset, sipping on savory water till my liver turns blue. Sha-na-na, sha-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Places broadcast in the evening news, I will be relieved. La, la, I am waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. I'm waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. La, 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 singing, hey, hey, alright, yeah, I wrote that one myself. It's astounding the lengths I'll go to convince the whole damn world I don't need anybody's help. Fuck.
Welcome everybody to a brand new Thursday evening with yours truly. It is me, Matt Wright, and you are here on the Writer's Block, a Muddied Waters Media production. Thank you all for spending Thursday evening with me. It is truly humbling that all of you choose to spend today with me, as opposed to one of the many other things you could be doing, because there's a lot of things you could be doing out there, and I appreciate that you're not doing any of them to be here with me. First and foremost, allow me to thank the wonderful and fantastic people at siestacava.com. If you are one of the people out there who have not tried the Libertarian Kool-Aid, go to siestacava.com to get some of this hippie moonshine today. To them and to all of you out there, I say, Bula Vinaka. This episode, like all of the others, is brought to you by a litany of people, starting with the Libertarian Party Waffle House Caucus, the fastest growing caucus in the Libertarian Party. I'm going to say that again. The Libertarian Party Waffle House Caucus is the fastest growing caucus and now the second largest caucus in the Libertarian Party. So something that started out as a joke, a place to share pictures of waffles and donkeys, is now the second largest caucus in the Libertarian Party. If you want to become a member of the Libertarian Party Waffle House Caucus, all you have to do is go to muddiedwatersmedia.com/store and pick yourself up a Libertarian Party Waffle House Caucus button. If you want to be a voting member, get yourself a shirt, which is weird because we don't actually vote on anything. Mudwater, the most aptly named product to ever advertise on this show. Mudwater is a coffee alternative made with masala chai, cacao, mushrooms, turmeric, sea salt, cinnamon, and that is it. And it tastes exactly like what you think that combination of things would taste like if you put them into water, hot water, and blended it really hard. Tastes exactly like that. Trust me, add honey. Go to muddiedwatersmedia.com/mud to make the switch from coffee to Mudwater today. This episode is brought to you by The Gravy King. This episode is brought to you by Fierce Luxury. Fierce Luxury is a high-end bag and accessory consignment store based online. They carry the hottest brand like Louis Vuitton, Chanel, Gucci, and Hermes. That is pronounced Hermes for anybody who doesn't know that. I had to work on that all day today because it looks like it's pronounced Hermes. co-sign with them or consign with them for a 30% fee, which is 20% less than most consignment stores. But according to my notes here, I don't know how true that is, but I'm going to believe Ashley, because Ashley would not lie to me, and that means she wouldn't lie to you. You can find them online at fierceluxurybyashley.com and on Facebook in their exclusive group, Fierce Luxury by Ashley. This episode is brought to you by tonight's guest, Jonathan Realz. I meant to hold on to this one for a little bit. He needs $350 for outreach and petitioning. So during this show, I am going to be sending you the website, www.jonathan.cash, and everybody give him money because he needs money to become a real boy, because Jonathan Realz wants to be a real boy like Pinocchio. This episode is brought to you by Jack Casey. Jack Casey is the author of 2 books, The Royal Green and In Silver Throned. His 3rd book, Crowned by Gold, is going to be coming out like tomorrow. If it doesn't come out tomorrow, you can just give personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, a call, and he will sue Jack Casey for you. I'm wondering what Crowned by Gold is going to have on the cover, since he has a vomiting ring and a butterfly with an erection for the other 2. So if I was just taking a random guess right now off the top of my head, it would be a crown with pornographic images on it, but they'd be like hidden on there. That's just, if I'm just shooting from the hip, that is my guess for what's going to be on that, because that seems like the type of thing Jack Casey would throw up on a book. This episode is also brought to you by Cumberland Cannabis Co. Cumberland Cannabis Co. They are a fantastic Tennessee CBD company that if you want to find out what Tennessee CBD is, you should check out cumberlandcannabisco.com and just, you know what that stuff does. I don't have to tell you. You know what that stuff does. This is Adderpan. Do you want to have the ever-living crap scared out of you tonight? Go over to Steam and spend $5 on Adderpan. It is a first-person 5-night style game featuring creepy characters, jump scares galore, and even a few Easter eggs hidden amongst the game files themselves, which apparently are pure horror-ridden demons. Those are the Easter eggs that you are going to find on that game. Join Dolly and her haunted imaginary friends as you play the role of a school security guard trying to survive night shift at a school, armed only with cameras and a flashlight. And can you make it till morning before they get a piece of you? Expansions are already in progress by the developer and will be available for free as they are released, and is currently available for Windows PC. You can find Adderpan and upcoming expansions on Steam for the low price of $5. Seriously, if you like being scared, go get Adderpan. This episode is brought to you by Joe Solosky for Pennsylvania governor. He is the key to Pennsylvania's success. If you live in the Pennsylvania region of these United States, vote for Joe Solosky, not the other one. Vote for Joe Solosky, and he will make Pennsylvania great again. You all, I am so excited about tonight's episode. Very happy to finally get Jonathan Realz on. Not a lot of people know this, but he is a member of a competing caucus. He is a member of a competing caucus, and we are here to set the record straight on how it is with the Waffle House caucus and the Shoney's caucus. But always remember that this man did a fantastic job at playing a very evil character on The Walking Dead, and he also seemed to have stalked a comedian around the country for a year, and we're going to get into all of that, but he's also running for Congress. So without further ado, let me thank Jonathan Realz for being on the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hey, great to have you on, man. How are you? Wow, you have your
I'm ready.
You
I'm
are
ready.
Look at you with your Shoney's Bear and everything. The best I got is I've got my Jewish narwhal.
Hang on, I feel like, am I backwards? I'm backwards, aren't I?
You are backwards.
I'm not backwards anymore. Boom.
Yeah, I have my Jewish narwhal that's right here next to me.
Matt, I appreciate you having me on, trying to establish a level of party unity with our two feuding caucuses.
It's true.
Um,
We don't get a lot of party unity between caucuses right now, and I feel like
no,
this is
not at all.
this is the bridge. This is the gap that can bridge the other caucuses into a unity. So, a little backstory: where I grew up, there wasn't Waffle House, and I went to Shoney's often.
So you want to join our caucus then?
No, God, no, because I've been to Waffle House now, and while I do appreciate the breakfast buffet, and there aren't enough breakfast buffets on the cheap anywhere anymore,
Right.
Waffle House is still a much better alternative for breakfast food than Shoney's.
But how do you?
But those French toast sticks were so good when I was 8 years old.
Yeah, they're still good now. And the thing is, I mean, I'm assuming that you probably like bacon, right?
I love bacon. Yeah, I love me
Yeah.
some bacon.
Yeah, so you get 4 pieces of bacon at Waffle House. You can get all the bacon that your heart desires at Shoney's. It's unlimited. Menus are statist, Matt.
But Shoney's has a menu. Like your argument
They have a menu, but no one uses it. It's there as an option in case any statists come in. It's a trap. That's how they figure out if you really know what you're doing when you're coming to Shoney's. I get very upset whenever I see someone look at the menu. I'm like, oh, first time. Ugh, what a loser.
The only reason I've ever looked at a menus at Shoney's was to see how much the buffet had gone up in price.
It's still pretty freaking cheap.
Is it? What is it now?
Yeah.
We don't have a Shoney's anywhere near me now, so I have no clue.
It's like $5.99. It's insane.
We used to go every Sunday after church when I was growing up, and I would always get the eggs, and I would put that fake cheese sauce all over the eggs, and then I would do
Delicious.
and just a ton of bacon, and then the French toast sticks, and just douse them with syrup. And the fact that I don't have diabetes is amazing.
Everyone knows that it's special at Shoney's. You can't catch diabetes from a Shoney's. It's like you go in, there's like a diabetes force field.
Right. Diabetes. So at the Shoney's in Dothan, Alabama, I'm assuming Dothan has at least
Sure.
one, probably
It does.
4. Okay. Do they still do the coloring contests for kids there?
I am not certain if they do. I've not seen that.
So
but to be fair, I barely ever see a child at Shoney's anymore. I feel like everyone.
They're all at Waffle House.
Well, that's possible, but I feel like everyone that's under the age of 40, they forgot that Shoney's existed.
Right.
Like you have this like buried childhood memory of like going on family vacation or something, or going after church on Sunday, and it's there in your head. But like you drive past Shoney's all the time. People all the time drive past Shoney's here, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't think it was still open. I thought it closed 20 years ago." And I'm like, "No, it's never closed. It's still there, and it's still just as cheap as it ever was."
Yeah, the one in my hometown in Manassas, Virginia, they closed years ago. I'm pretty certain. I think it became a Chipotle, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, like they closed a long time ago, and I was like, man, I miss Shoney's, because there wasn't a Waffle House there either. So like I just had no chain breakfast restaurants that I could go to anymore.
Well, come on down to Dothan, Alabama, and we'll go to Shoney's, and we'll do it right. We'll go at 10:30 in the morning.
Of course.
So that way you can get the breakfast bar. And then at 11 they're going to bring in lunch. So now you get lunch, and it's all included. And then we'll take a nap in the booth, and we'll wait until they put out the seafood buffet at night. And then boom, we're done. We've had the best day ever.
That would make multiple caucuses. The only caucus I wouldn't be happy is the Waffle House caucus. I will take you up on this and visit you in Dothan, Alabama one time, because
As you should.
Because I have heard so much about Dothan throughout my life, which is a weird sentence to say out loud. And you guys are the boiled peanut capital of the world, I believe.
We're the peanut capital of the world.
Oh, the peanut
All
cap.
peanuts.
Oh,
All
okay.
peanuts. We've got boiled, we've got roasted, we've got them all. Got them raw.
And you,
Um, but my favorite thing about Dothan is this weird tradition that we have where the city pretends that they don't notice that they're wheeling out a giant penis to hang above the city square for New Year's. I swear, look it up. Just like Google Dothan, Alabama, New Year's penis,
right.
and you're gonna find, and they talk about it. Everybody acknowledges it, like all over social media. It's been going on for like 10 years. They're like, quit, look at what you're doing. This doesn't look like a peanut. What are you doing? And they call it the nut drop. And it's, the city just ignores it, and they have to know. They have to know what
absolutely. Yeah, because so you and I we were talking online a couple of months ago when I found out you were from Dothan, and I said, I know two things about Dothan. They're the boiled peanut capital of the world, and they have a condom factory. And then you told me about the nut drop. And so I had to, of course, I had to look this up because it sounded just fake. Like, it sounded too good to be real, so it had to be fake. And I was like, no, this is 100% real. And that thing does not look like a peanut.
No, it doesn't.
No, that thing is like 2 veins away from being pornographic. And didn't you say, was it there or was it somewhere else where is that where a drag queen will ride down on one, or was that somewhere else that does that?
Oh, I don't know about that, but I mean, I would be all in favor of it. I think that would really add to the mystique of Dothan, Alabama.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna that would add to the mystique of Dothan, Alabama. Now that I think about that, I remember somewhere was saying that they do that where a drag queen will ride down on something that drops at midnight, and I was thinking it was that, and I was so excited to talk to you about it, but halfway through that sentence, I went, I don't know if that was Dothan.
Yeah, that's not Dothan, but I will tell you this: I'm in full support of that becoming the new tradition. And I think that it would really give the state of Alabama some much needed rebranding if we're that positive about the GSM community, that we have a giant penis with a drag queen, and that I feel like it's not on brand for Alabama, but that's the Alabama that I want to live in.
Right. I was going to say that's definitely not Alabama brand right there. So before we get into the real reasons that you're on, instead of talking about penises dropping at midnight on New Year's Eve and Shoney's.
I'm a congressional candidate, Matt. I shouldn't be talking about this on the internet, especially not in front of a blank green screen.
Yeah. Yeah, I also need to applaud you on your bravery for showing up on the internet with a green screen behind you. Well done. I'm hoping tons of memes come from this. That's why I put a bunch of stuff in the backdrop, just to make it harder to key out.
Yeah, please, everyone, do not make a meme. It would be horrible for me. Please don't do it.
So before we get into your current run for Congress, I like to find out how it is that people came to the Libertarian Party, or how they found, if you're not a member of the Libertarian Party, how you came to the Liberty Movement. So what was it that brought you to the I know you're a part of the Libertarian Party because you were foretold in a prophecy that you would take
That's
over
true.
the Libertarian. So how is it that you came to the Libertarian Party, besides the prophecy, of course?
So, do you want the long version, the fun version, or what are we doing here?
Whichever you want to give me, I'll play with either. It doesn't matter.
Okay, so first of all, you've kind of heard the true origin story, not the one that my campaign sent for you to post, which I love the people that volunteer for me, that we had an actual meeting and they came up with that. Anyway, so in reality, we ran this ad on your show for maybe like a week, and it was so much fun to watch you like read it live on air without knowing where the story was going. But whenever I was 8, I was at school, and the kids were all talking about how Bob Dole was going to ban chocolate milk, and I was appalled by this notion. I could not give up my chalky milk, and I I started campaigning for Bill Clinton because Bob Dole couldn't win. He was going to take my chalky milk, and so I go home, and I'm telling my mom, you cannot vote for Bob Dole. He's going to get rid of the chocolate milk. What am I going to do? Am I supposed to drink juice at school for lunch? I want chocolate milk. And she was dead set that it was going to be Bob Dole. So I decided that if I could have any luck with anyone, it would be my grandparents. So I go to talk to my granny, and I'm like, Granny, you have got to vote for Bill Clinton. You can't vote for Bob Dole. They're going to get rid of the chocolate milk. And she turned around and just looked at me dead in the face and said, I ain't voting for either of them shit asses. And I was very confused. Not the fact that she was swearing. I heard that word all the time. Right. But but that there were more than 2 people running. Why didn't I hear about this?
Right.
Maybe it's because I was 8 years old.
And you probably went to public school in Alabama.
Yeah. Well, so I that stuck with me for years down the line. It was the next election cycle, and I had this in my head, like, well, there's got to be a third option. Well, that was Ralph Nader. That was the big candidate that year, the third option, right, that apparently ruined the election and gave it to Bush. You know, that excuse they always use for third party candidates. And I went around doing the same thing. I was like, I started whipping up votes in the mock election at school. And I was very, very excited that the third party candidate won in my class. So that I actually started paying attention to policy and stuff like that. And, he was for the ending of the drug war. He was for ending corporate welfare, ending the wars overseas. Right. A lot of stuff that got me like excited. Like as a young non-voter, I started paying attention to politics, and those were the things that I thought were like no-brainers. So years kept going on and on and on, and it wasn't until 2008 that Ralph Nader did a little conference on, I believe, CNN with Ron Paul. And they talked about how there are issues that are so important that no matter who you are, you probably care about all these issues, but neither of the major party candidates actually want to address them. And so he had, like 10 different candidates from all across the minor parties. They all came to an agreement of we're going to focus on these issues and ending the Fed, corporate welfare, all that stuff that I've been excited about for a long time. I heard Ron Paul talking about, and I was like, oh, well, that's cool. There's somebody else doing it too. So that's where I started and came over to the libertarian side of things, is because I found that. Now, unfortunately, that was the election year that Bob Barr was the Libertarian presidential nominee. So
with Wayne Allen Root was running.
With Wayne Allen Root, and they weren't so keen on the ending the drug war or the wars or the stuff that libertarians believe in. So I didn't vote libertarian that time, but I had already started self-identifying as one. Right. I had to vote green because that was the most libertarian candidate, because the libertarians didn't run a libertarian. Anyway, I digress. So a few years later, I joined the party after being involved in the liberty movement for years. I was still living in Georgia where I grew up. And so they had just redrawn my state house district, and they drew it to where the incumbent was no longer in our district, and we were the new district for the entire state. Because they got to add, I think, one or two districts to the state, and we were one of the ones that they decided that it was a new district. And they drew the district really odd, where it was kind of nice, and a little clump of communities that were all together. And then they drew this little sliver, and that went all the way up to the nearest major city and circled a neighborhood and gave us a new congressman. And no one was running against him because there was really no political parties that were active in any of the rural communities that I was from. So they just essentially were going to appoint somebody with no election because there wasn't anybody to run. And they did it all by gerrymandering. And I decided that that was not an acceptable thing. So I decided that I was going to run, and I wanted to run as a libertarian. So I had to start. That was whenever I found out the struggles of petitioning, being a third party candidate. So it was crazy to me that how many signatures that I needed to get in a town of roughly 4,000 people where I grew up. I needed to get about 2,500 signatures.
So you need to
was,
get roughly 70% of your town to sign off on you running.
Right. But that was because of the way the district was drawn. So we had these little small towns, and then this weird go up, just ignore this town, and then go into this major city to make sure that their person stayed in office. And during that run, I learned something that I've really been applying during this current run for office, is that if you just go and knock on people's doors, it's very likely that you are going to be the first person that's ever run for office that's ever come and had a conversation with them.
Yeah.
And that goes a long way.
That does.
And if you can just talk with people, you don't have to explain libertarianism. Most people kind of are already there. And if you can just shut up long enough to let them talk and have them be like, oh, this guy actually listens, you've got their vote.
Right.
All you have to do is go, I agree with you. Yeah. The government sucks.
Yeah. That is one of the biggest issues that I see with a lot of libertarians who go out campaigning. And this is a learning process thing. I did real estate for years, and a lot of people I would see doing real estate, and I'm not a good salesman. I'm not trying to say that I am. And campaigning isn't much different than being a salesman. You're just trying to sell a candidate or yourself if you are the candidate. But so many people will get the sale and then keep pushing the sale, when all you really need to do is shut the hell up and listen to what they're saying, and then talk to them about what they're saying. But keep your answer short and concise, tailored to what they are saying, so that way you're not pushing yourself out of the sale at that point.
Sure. I mean, but it also becomes very easy in a place like Alabama, where 85% of the races in this state are unopposed. So it's very easy whenever you are the person who's actually trying to make sure there is an election.
Right.
All you have to say is, listen, I would love for you to vote for me, but please sign this petition so we can have an election. And people are going to like the guy who's trying to make sure that there's an election. You kind of already have a leg up.
Right. No, that's actually very valid. Yeah, where I am here, and I'm in St. Pete, Florida, and there's an election. we're like
Right.
one of the most densely populated cities in Florida, and like in the top 20 or so in America or something like that. So there's an election. Lots of money gets spent in the city by the two major parties. We had a special election back in 2014, I think, and the two major parties spent something obscene, something like $20 million on a special election for Congress. And this person was only going to be in for the election was in March. The next election was in November. So, what, 6 months, 7 months? And like they spent $20 million to get that seat back in 2014. And the Republicans ended up winning it by a squeaker. They blamed the Libertarian. The Democrats blamed the Libertarian for them losing. The Republicans blamed the Libertarian for them almost losing. And we ended up. That was the first person I went out knocking doors for, because was like, he can win this. He did. No, he didn't. It wasn't. But
Matt, could you just imagine if that $20 million was spent on actually building up the community rather than dividing everyone into two different sides who are going to fight each other online over my candidate is the best?
right.
Imagine if that $20 million was spent on, I don't know, feeding the homeless, buying diapers for the needy, things like that.
Right.
Man, that would be great.
That would be amazing.
It's too bad that it just has to be spent on campaign ads.
Has to be on mudslinging campaign ads. Because
Boy,
they were
if only.
If only. That would honestly be the greatest campaign ad of all time. Is if a candidate came in and was like, "Look, we're all of the money that we're going to spend in this district on ads, we're going to use it helping people. So whatever money and
Well,
just
Matt,
do that."
you would be happy to know that that's what I'm doing.
Well,
I am not going to be doing any type of campaign event unless I am going to do something that's going to help people.
that's awesome. And people are going to think that was a setup, but it 100% was not.
It wasn't.
I did
was
not
not.
have that in my notes at all. No, that's awesome. So like when you're doing a campaign event, it'll be out to like help feed the homeless or to help give.
It can be something that's very simple. So just a couple weeks ago for Juneteenth, originally it was supposed to be an outdoor event. And so what we did is we had about 800 bottles of water, and we were just going to make sure people were hydrated. It's in the summer in South Alabama. It's very hot. At the last minute, a hurricane decided it was going to, or a tropical storm decided it was going to blow through, and the event got moved to the inside of a civic center. So people were not as thirsty. So we had a lot of extra water, but people still appreciated it. There weren't a lot. The food vendors were all going to be outside, so there weren't food vendors anymore at the event. So people weren't able to, go buy their beverages and stuff like that because they were all like food trucks. So we were the only people there making sure that, people, if they were thirsty, they had water. So little things like that. It doesn't have to be something that's just like super egregious. Like it would be great to have the funds to be able to, put together something like what they did in Tennessee, where I believe the whiskey region and the Shoney's caucus and Spike came in, and they had essentially a breakfast bar and made plates and fed the homeless. They would be great to do that kind of stuff for events, but obviously that kind of stuff costs money. And there's definitely some sort of loopholes that you have to jump through to make sure that you're not violating FEC rules by doing it. So
because they don't want you to think you're buying votes that way by helping people. Yeah, because FEC rules, they make a lot of sense.
Well, see, I maintain that we have a little bit of immunity in this situation, because if we're not on the ballot, we can't buy votes. So if I'm just running and maybe I'm on the ballot, maybe I'm not, we don't know yet. And we're just helping people in the community, then we're not buying votes. We're not even on the freaking ballot.
So let's talk about that a little bit, because one of the planks that you have on your website is about ballot access, and you were telling me before the show while I was dealing with technical issues, that there's a lawsuit currently going on in Alabama for for the voter registration rules.
Yes. So what goes on here in the state is it is the position of the state of Alabama that the Libertarian Party does not deserve access to the voter registration roll because we are not a real serious political party, and they give the voter registration. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, but I don't know which is worse. The fact that Alabama doesn't consider the Libertarian Party a real serious political party, or that the state of Tennessee thinks that if you add the Libertarian Party to the ballots, the Democrats and Republicans will become confused. I'm not really sure which is worse.
I'm not sure either. The biggest insult. Well, there's a lot of just ridiculous insults.
So many
to
backhanded insults.
But one of the biggest insults to me is the fact that the legal team printed out pictures of Vermin Supreme and held them up as evidence, which is, oh my God, like it. I maintain that Vermin is less of a joke than
our current president.
Our current president, or even the Alabama Secretary of State, who doesn't get any media attention unless it's involving his sex scandal. I mean, Vermin, he gets all over the place. So I feel like
isn't Alabama where Judge Roy Moore was from?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the pedophile that ran for Senate.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
So that's the problem, is that we don't have enough sex scandals, I think. So that's how you become a serious party, is whenever you start having sex scandals. I think. I'm not sure. That's the message that I'm getting.
That would seem to make sense for Alabama politics.
But so they give the voter registration roll to the Republicans and Democrats, and they are requiring us to pay $36,000, and they give the list to them and allow them to sell copies of it to their candidates for thousands of dollars, which then goes back into the general fund for the parties themselves. So essentially, the state of Alabama is using this rule to fundraise for the major parties. And so we're in a lawsuit right now, and that will be going to the circuit court on August 24th. So I think there's going to be a big demonstration there that day that's getting ironed out. And if people want to, if they're in like neighboring states like Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, Tennessee, any of that stuff, and they want to come to it, we are trying to throw a massive event. I believe it has been confirmed that Spike's going to be there. Vermin has expressed interest in coming down.
When is that event again?
August 24th.
August 24th. I can tell you if Spike's going to be there. August 24th. Hang on. I'll find it here in a second. I know he's in Ohio that weekend. I don't know. I'll have to check with Brian afterwards. But
I'm relatively certain.
Right.
I'm
fair.
relatively certain.
So on your website, you have a section in it that says, to ensure that Alabama voters have another option on your ballots, you need to turn in a petition with 51,588 valid signatures.
That is correct.
To run for Congress in a district with 2,500 people.
That is for statewide. That is the that is the petition to make the Libertarian Party a party.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And get our candidates on the ballot.
Okay.
Now, I could run.
I was confused by that. I was like, you have 4,000 people in.
Now I could run as an independent.
Okay, gotcha.
Right. Okay, so the number that you're talking, I was living in Georgia whenever I was running for state house for that small district. Right. I have since moved to Alabama, and this district does have a much higher population. So the actual number, if I wanted to run as an independent, would also still be very, very, very large. I've decided that I'm going to run as a libertarian, and the reason why I'm not just because I'm a party member, but I want to be able to support any of the smaller candidates that also want to run. And the way that this petition works, it gets them ballot access as well, so we can campaign together. We can go knock on doors together, and essentially build like this network of libertarians that are running and be on the ballot together. The crazy thing, though, is that none of the candidates for statewide office can take in any money or spend any money on their campaign until 1 year before the election. And they also have to put their campaign on hold while the Alabama State House and Senate are in session. So you essentially...
So while the incumbent is running, nobody else can run? Or while he's in session, nobody else can run? Nobody else can do anything?
So I'm currently the only person in the state of Alabama who can legally run a campaign within our party. You have to be running for federal office to be running now. Now, there are people that are volunteering and helping with my campaign that are eventually going to be running, but they can't take in any money, they can't spend any money, they can't do anything really until 1 year before the election, and then they have to put it on pause. So, yeah, Alabama is crazy, Matt.
Alabama's got some crazy rules there. Janice McKenzie's in the comments here, and she said that her son is Richard Fast.
Oh, I love Richard. Richard's great.
And he's hosting one of your events. Which event is he doing?
That Richard is going to be that event for the...
Oh, okay, it's the
lawsuit.
August 24th?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and according to Janice McKenzie, a big, huge event with, Spike, Vermin, and State Chair Laura Lane. So that should be a great event for anybody who's in the Alabama area of the United States. The entire outside region, too. I used to go to Alabama a lot when I lived in Tennessee. And I love it down there. I think it's a beautiful country.
I maintain that the just north of Montgomery, where the event's going to be, I maintain it has the best Shoney's in the country.
Are you going to try to get Spike to go to the Shoney's? And
there's no way he's going to do it.
But you can't eat anything there.
Yeah, he can. There's salmon.
Is it really salmon, though? Because Denny's says that as well.
Hey, this is no Denny's. Don't you disrespect Shoney's with this Denny's talk.
So a couple other things that you talk a lot about gun rights on your page, and there's a lot of talk in the nation right now. Like, you've got Joe Biden going on saying that I wish I had the exact quote in front of me, but where he compared taking guns away from the blacks and Native Americans at the beginning of the country back in 1792 or whatever. I know it's in 1792. In 1792, as basically he said it was common sense gun reform is what he compared that to. So what is it that you would want to do in Congress to ensure that that doesn't happen?
Well, the short answer is my general rule for everything that I would like to do in Congress is I would like to vote for as few new laws as possible. So I personally believe that everything has gotten like way too far out of control. So I feel like that's the
Yes.
most effective thing that I could do is vote for fewer things. Just vote no. But absolutely, there shouldn't be any type of new restrictions on gun ownership. Um, I explained this. I was out campaigning and I was talking to somebody who was very concerned. One of the people that volunteers, they were petitioning with me, and he was talking to her first, and she brought up that her number one issue is that she wanted more gun control. And he tried to explain, and he was like, "Oh, you know what? I'm just going to let you talk to Jonathan." And so he passes her over to me, and she, was very adamant that that was her biggest concern. And I said, I would like to give you a counterpoint with all of the gun laws that are in place, and you look at the arrest and who are traditionally targeted, how the arrest happened, the circumstances around it, you see that it disproportionately affects certain communities more than others.
Yes.
And she's like, well, that's true, because I mean, look at this and this and this and this, and like, exactly. So do you think expanding those things is going to make that problem go away or make it worse? I mean, a great example is the Lil Wayne thing. Is it like that was a weed charge originally, and there was a gun on the bus, and so
Right.
now he's in possession of a firearm while in possession of marijuana, and I think it's the Brady Act that makes those two things.
Wasn't he also an ex-con? Wasn't he also a convicted felon? So he wasn't supposed to own a firearm?
I believe that was the second
Oh, okay.
second charge.
All right.
Like he's been caught with a gun multiple times, but I believe the initial charge was that he had a gun on his bus and he was being arrested for weed initially, and they searched the bus. I believe that is the initial charge.
Okay.
Back in the day.
Right.
And like that's the system working exactly as it's meant to work. That's the way they want it to work. Now they've got you for two charges, and they can lock you up and throw away the key or exploit you for hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and just ruin you. That's the system. That's the system they want.
It is. Yeah,
It's always been that system.
I was talking to a guy on Clubhouse yesterday, and he was telling me that when he was 18 years old, he got I don't want to say the wrong thing. It wasn't disturbing. He caught a charge that was kind of like one of those trumped up charges. Like the cop didn't like him since he was a minor and said, once you turn 18, I'm going to mess up your life. And then he turned 18 and the cop pulled him over, and he was saying that he was like, remember how I told you this? And he was like, no, I don't remember that. And then he told him to F off. And so the cop charged him with disorderly conduct. That was it. Disorderly conduct. And it ended up sticking. Like he didn't spend long in jail, but that charge he ended up paying tons in fines, and it stuck with him. He actually wanted to be a cop, and that precluded him from becoming a cop. He couldn't become he couldn't work in the prison as a corrections guard, and then he couldn't work as like a counselor at the prisons, and like everything he wanted to do was out the window because he got this one charge, because he told a cop to F off, because the cop had told him 2 years before, I'm going to ruin your life when you turn 18, and it stuck with him. And that is one of the things that definitely needs to change in this country. Like, we need to fix that, because you have a lot of young men, young women who are getting in trouble for something when they aren't old enough to drink. They aren't old enough to smoke. They are old enough to join the military and go off and die in a war to protect the country, or they're old enough to get tried as an adult for something that you're telling them they aren't smart enough to make the decision to drink or to smoke, but you knew better than to do what you are doing here. Like the two don't match up.
No,
In my mind,
not at all. Not at
No.
all. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir with some of my talking points, but like the whole system with the amount of laws and the things that you can be charged for, and they can just come up with charges. They can always find a charge. There's always a charge. It completely violates everyone's human rights. Like as long as you are not hurting someone or taking their stuff, you're not doing anything wrong.
Right. Agreed. 100%.
And most people agree with that. I'm going to say like 90% of people, if you really just sat down and had a conversation with them and you weren't talking about my guy versus your guy or anything like that, you were just talking about like an outlook on life. Most people are going to agree with you that you don't hurt people and you don't take their stuff. And that's a good way to live your life, and that everything else doesn't matter. But whenever you bring politics into it, they'll be like, well, there ought to be a law. I really just don't like it when people do that. There ought to be a law.
Yeah, that's my least favorite phrase in American history.
My one status thing is that I think there ought to be a law against saying there ought to be a law.
I mean, it depends on how you're saying it. Like if you're saying it how you and I would normally say it.
Oh, no exceptions.
No exceptions?
Banned. Let's ban it.
You can't say there ought to be a law against there ought to be a law.
Nope.
So, yeah, and one of the things that I've noticed a lot of people are really starting to get passionate about is criminal justice reform, and it is the number one issue that we have. Last night on My Fellow Americans, Spike had on Dave from Dave's Killer Bread, and he was talking about the system that he was kind of stuck in. He did accept a lot of the blame on his own, which I do respect anytime somebody does that. And they're like, no, I screwed up. Like my depression, the crap life that I was in led to my depression, which led to me doing these things. And he was like, the drug stuff was whatever. It was the violent stuff that I shouldn't have been doing. And that's the stuff that landed me in prison. And he goes out and he started his own company, Dave's Killer Bread, makes fantastic bread.
It's so good.
It's so good. But then he either only hires or primarily hires ex-cons to work for him, to give them a second chance, to get them reassimilated and get them back into the real world. And he is doing more than the entire prison system and the entire penal system in America combined. Because, sorry, I forgot to hit do not disturb on that. And
oh no, keep it up. I liked it. It was blocking out my face.
But he's done more for the prison system, for the entire correctional system than any state has, attempting to keep people in, because that's fundraising for them. You got to have them paying the dues that they have to pay for probation. They have to keep up on those. They have to pay for their classes. They have to pay for the psych evals or whatever else. They have to pay and pay and pay, and you're keeping these people from being able to make it. And then on top of it, you have all of these companies that are saying, are you a felon? Have you been convicted of a crime? And you're keeping these people down instead of giving them a system in which once they have been released, they are able to lift back up and, prove themselves to the world.
It's the 13th Amendment working as it's written. I mean, it is.
I can't argue with that even a little bit. I can argue against Shoney's French toast sticks better than I can argue against that. And it's hard to argue against that. But so, other than voting no on a lot of things, like when you're in Congress, like you said, I don't want to vote for any new laws. There's nothing you would want to pass, no legislation you would want to get kicked off, anything?
Well, I mean, obviously, I would love to be part. I mean, that's why I started running originally, was I was very passionate about ending qualified immunity and seeing the complete lack of support that had in Congress is what pushed the button to make me run for office, which I said I would not do again. So yeah, I mean, that would be something that I would immediately want to work on is ending qualified immunity, no knock raids, any of that, ending the war on drugs. I'd like to end as much
Right.
stuff as possible.
All legislation is used to end previous legislation, and that I can get behind. That I can absolutely get behind.
Ending the wars, bringing
yeah.
everyone home, shutting down all of the military bases overseas, every last one of them.
Right.
That kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Get it. I understand completely. I absolutely understand completely. Well, man, so okay, before I let you go, I have to ask.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Because I found your IMDb. Who is Emo?
I'm sorry. Emo Phillips.
Yeah, who is Emo Phillips? I do not know who this is.
Oh, wow. So Emo Phillips is he's a comedy legend. Like within the comedy world, most people will tell you that he's the best joke writer that's ever lived.
Okay.
But he's so he's very underground, has a very, very devoted fan base. And there's no way for him to have mainstream appeal. Like he's the type of comedy that he writes is honestly too smart for the average person. Yeah, I personally think that Emo is the greatest comic who's ever lived, and is still living, the greatest comic alive.
So much so that you made it's a documentary, right?
Sure.
Okay. I like that shirt. If that's what you want to call it. It's me and some friends with a camera joking around.
Yeah, it's a very, somebody is shooting off fireworks. It is way too early, and it just scared Cletus. I have to bring Cletus in just for a moment. Cletus is terrified now.
Yeah, of course. I get that.
So Stalking Emo is a really fun project that me and some friends shot a few years ago. It has yet to be released. It's got some trailers online, and there's clips you can look up. But I don't know how to describe what the movie is, which is probably why it'll never see the light of day, because I don't think anyone knows what to do with it. I don't know what to do with it. But it's a feature-length documentary-ish type thing, comedy film. It's got a bunch of fun people in it. I got to work with Weird Al. I got to work with Andy Daly, who's in tons of comedy stuff. I got to work with like a cast member from Always Sunny, and just a lot of fun people were in it.
Yeah, I was going through like that. I saw that you were a scavenger with the red umbrella on Walking Dead, and that you were in Jimmy Will Probably Save the World, or whatever that show was.
Whatever that show was.
Yeah, I don't remember. Like I said,
I don't know. I got paid to be there, and
right. And then I saw that you were the writer and director of Stalking Emo, and as a person who listened to emo for a period of my life that's longer than I would like to admit, I was like, oh, I wonder what this is, and then I was like, oh, that's a person. I don't know who this is. But then I saw you like met Weird Al and stuff like that, and I was like, oh, that sounds. I want to see this now.
I personally maintain that it's a really good comedy movie. It is bizarre in all of my favorite ways. I am biased because I wrote and directed it.
Yeah, because you wrote and directed it. I get it.
But I mean, when you look at the people that are in it and you look at the kind of stuff that they do, I'm a huge Weird Al fan. So that was like absolute dream come true to be able to work with him. And it was an absolute nerve-wracking nightmare to direct him, not because he was difficult to work with, just because I'm like, I don't need to be bossing Weird Al around. I don't need to be telling Weird Al what to do. He's Weird Al. He should be telling me how to make this.
Right. No, I understand that completely. I've written a couple of short films that are out there somewhere, but I've never worked with anybody nearly on the scope of like a Weird Al or anybody from It's Always Sunny. Like everybody I've worked with has been like local, but just having my own IMDb credits is fun and cool.
The one thing that I'm very happy that didn't pan out from making Stalking Emo is Bob Odenkirk apparently was interested in being in the movie, and we could not time it out correctly for him to, like, it was just like a matter of just his schedule. He was still making Better Call Saul and stuff like that, and he wanted to be in it. And I got very excited that he wanted to be in it. And then like looking back, I'm like, I'm so glad that he's not in this, because I could not have properly functioned as, I'm so amateur. There's no way that I like, it's Bob Odenkirk.
Bob Odenkirk comes on. He's like, what is it you're doing here?
Yeah.
Have you guys ever done this before?
No, we haven't.
No, absolutely not. Do you remember when you were on the Mr. Bob show or whatever that show was called? Yeah. We're like that, but less experienced.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. But no, like when I saw you had that, I got more interested in like your IMDb stuff than I did about your political career.
That tends to happen. I try not to bring up that I worked in the entertainment industry before this, because people do get really distracted with that, which I honestly, if I were smart, I would lean into it. Right. And just use that to get people, because people will show up. If they'll show up to get a autograph from any Walking Dead zombie at any type of small little Comic-Con, and I should be just being like, I was on The Walking Dead, come to my campaign event.
I was Scavenger with the Red Umbrella, come to my
do you watch the show?
I saw season 1, and that
okay, well that was I think that was the best one.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
I essentially, the entire purpose of my character was to turn on the good guys and then lock them in this like fence and essentially lead them to their death. And I was one of the most hated people for weeks after that. I was just destroyed on Twitter. My favorite tweet that I saw was there are 4 people who need to die right now, and they were listing off characters. They were like Negan, listing off characters, and then they were like, and the actor who played the guy with the umbrella. Like 3 characters and a real person,
and you personally,
and me personally. There was like some article from Funny or Die that essentially called me a meth head, and just had a picture of me in costume. That was nice.
Right.
It was a fun week for me. If I didn't love the internet so much,
right,
it would have broken me, but I enjoyed it.
You and Monica Lewinsky share internet bullying in common. Well, I appreciate you coming on, taking the time to spend with me, and I'm really sorry about the technical issues at the beginning. But,
no problem.
So pitch everything that you can to get people to donate, where they can go to see your site, events you're doing. Pitch it all. Give me everything you got right now.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Realz. I'm running for Congress, which is very expensive. I'm not a real candidate because the FEC says that you have to raise $5,000 before you become a real candidate. So help me become a real candidate. Make me a real boy, as Matt says. You can donate at www.jonathan.cash. You can also find out about my radical extremist ideas at www.voteforjonathan.com.
I want to be a real boy, not the gumdrop buttons. Those are two totally separate
Did you find
characters.
out? Did you find out that you were a possible extremist today on Facebook, Matt?
I did not get notice.
You didn't get the
that-
notification?
I did not get the notification, so I assume I am the extremist that they're talking about.
See, I had someone send me their notification, and it was like, someone that you know may be an extremist.
Yeah.
Right. And so they send me that, and I'm like, what is this all about? And I get that in Messenger first, and then I open up actual Facebook, and then I get a notification, and my notification said, you may
Have been
be
exposed.
yeah. It was a different one. It was like, this one was like directed at me,
Right.
and I was like, wait, so did it was one of my campaign volunteers that sent me the original one. It was like, did my campaign volunteer get that one because he's been exposed to me? What is going on here? What is happening? I finally went and like looked up the resources that they give you, and I really think these notifications are being sent to the wrong people, because the two topics were how anti-immigrant racism is bad, and that violence is also bad. And I'm like, well, why are they sending this to libertarians? Like,
Right, 'cause,
this
yeah,
is not our thing.
We have the non-aggression principle, so we don't support violence, and bring on the immigrants. Like, bring them on. Like, come in. I don't care. Come on in.
The free movement of people is imperative, which is why Shoney's in the buffet is not statist.
So I'm gonna have to send you some Waffle House gear, and and bring you into the Waffle House caucus officially. But I will join you in Dothan for Shoney sometime.
Let's do it.
But thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I've enjoyed it.
I'm gonna do the closing if you want to hang out. If not, if you got somewhere else to be, cool. And
I have to be on the Libertarian Party Shoney's Caucus Breakfast Council live stream in about 6 minutes. So that's where I'll be.
All right. Well, have fun at the Shoney's Caucus Breakfast Council, and have some.
It's a super secret meeting, and we do it in public. We're a shadow council.
And have some French toast sticks for me, because we can't get those here. And I will talk to you again soon, and I hope I see you very soon, man. It's good to talk to you.
I hope so too. Good to talk to you.
I'll talk to you later. To everybody else, go to siestacava.com to pick up your Libertarian Kool-Aid. Thank you all so much for tuning in today. I definitely appreciate you taking the time out of your busy Thursdays to spend the evening with me and with Jonathan Realz. Real quick, what do we got going on? This weekend, on Sunday, we have a brand new episode of the Cajun and Eskimo. From Bayous to Igloos, happening Sunday, July 4th at 3 p.m. Eastern. And then on Tuesday, Spike Cohen and I will be right back here for Muddied Waters of Freedom, where we will parse through the week's events, like the 2020 Wonder Boys that we are. And I believe, I'm checking right now because, I never do this. Oh, we do. We have a guest on Tuesday. It is Avery Rumberger, who is running for judge of elections in his precinct in Pennsylvania. So looking forward to having him on. And then on Wednesday, Spike has... Yeah, looks like Spike has... I think he has Damon Root on. Don't quote me on that. He will also be on Kennedy at 8 o'clock. And then next Thursday, one day before, I am in Tunica, Mississippi with the Cajun Libertarian, with Spike Cohen, and with all of our disproportionately attractive significant others for the event going on there. I have Vicky Rose coming on to the writer's block next week. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Sorry about the late start. We had some technical issues. There is a chance on Tuesday that the show will get canceled because of a hurricane that is apparently headed right for us. And I'm certain that superfan Sarah Andreg is finding out about this right now. So if we don't have a show, that is why. It will be because we are attempting to keep our house from floating away. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Have a fantastic weekend. Stay safe on the 4th. If you're going to drink, don't drive. Get an Uber. If you're close to me, call me. I will come. I will pick you up, and I will drive you home. Do not drink and drive this weekend, but have a fantastic 4th of July weekend. And until next time, I am Matt Wright, and you are perfect just the way you are. I'll see you next week.
I am swinging from a 7-story window, throwing parties in a 10-by-7 cell. It's astounding the lengths I'll go to convince the whole damn world I don't need anybody's help. Yeah, I am waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. I'll try to use your body as a life raft, 'cause if there's room enough for one, there must be room enough for two. I'll sail the good ship you into the sunset, sipping on savory water till my liver turns blue. Sha-na-na, sha-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Is broadcast in the evening news. I will be relieved. La, la, I am waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. I'm waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. La, 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 singing, hey, hey, alright, yeah, I wrote that one myself. It's astounding the lengths I'll go to convince the whole damn world I don't need anybody's help. Fuck.